when someone takes that leap into doing something for themselves, like you mentioned that guy.
Now you're talking.
What do they have to do with their mindset? Because we touched on the paradigm shift, because I'd love to do another session just on moving that paradigm from employee to entrepreneur.
Love it. That's what I've done for 45 years.
With 30 years experience in auto logistics and state-of-the-art locations in 5 major Australian cities, Precar Fleet Services are a premier all-in-one solutions provider for commercial vehicle fleet operators, leasing companies and original equipment manufacturers. Please visit precar.com.au and click on the link to Fleet Services.
Because I reckon, because what you've done it. I remember you telling me your story. And in many ways, that sort of inspired me to do it, because the sessions that we had, I was envious, because I always used to be subconsciously, I didn't realize I was. I'd be sitting there, we'd be appointing dealers, and dealers would be presenting their business plans. And I thought, I should be doing that, But the difference is that they're risk takers. You were a huge risk taker. I remember you telling me the story when you had this massive life-changing event. And you said, well, what can I do? I could just collapse in a heap here. But no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be resilient, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to start my own business. And you've been amazingly successful at it, because it all came into here, where you started here with that resilience. Because you talked about it before, women have very strong mental toughness. So how does a person who is thrust into that position, like our friend we talked about before, how do they then go about getting their fitness level for mental toughness? What are some of the actions?
That's a good topic. Fitness, getting fit for mental toughness.
Because George, what I found, because I worked for big corporate, then I started a small business, then I went back to big corporate, and now I'm back in small business.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And I think what for me was like really interesting is when you've got a big corporate behind you, it's so easy to go out and see customers because you've got this massive brand and everybody treats you with respect and that. But when you don't have that and you go out and see a customer, people aren't interested who and they treat you with disrespect. And the second part of that is when you're a big corporate, if you need to get legal advice, you walk around the corner into your lawyer's office and he'll give you legal advice. Or if you need to get HR advice, you walk around the corner into your HR director's office and you get HR advice. When you got your own business, you don't have any of these resources. Then you have to say, well, do I go and get a lawyer's advice, but it's going to cost me this amount of money? Can I afford it or not? Or do I take the risk of trying to go it alone?
In that last minute that you just spoke, John, implies that you've got to have enough working capital to work for a certain period of time, you see. So, yes, don't know how many people into their own business. So the big part of it, Mark, is self-belief. You've got to reinvent yourself and you've got to have amazing self-belief and, resilience again. But you've got to have a goal. You've got to want to be something. You'll be all things to all people, you'll be nothing to no one. So you've got to be wanting to be somebody. And I wanted to be the best corporate coach in Australia. And I think I've achieved it.
Absolutely. Your reputation in a number of industries, George, your exposure on radio for those 10 years, the books you've written and the people that revere you as far as like John and myself, and there's countless others in the corporate world and in business that are fully aware of your skills and absolutely respect you. And you even mentioned before your global recognition in China and in Germany. Because I know the Germans were big fans of you.
Leave you with this thought about what you've just introduced. Life wasn't a bowl of cherries for me, as you know. And when John Bertrand launched my autobiography, it's very funny what he said, because he'd read the book and he was happy to write the foreword. And he said, in introducing George to you tonight, he reminds me of a cockroach. You can't kill him. He'll get up, you'll stand on him, he'll get up. You'll put him over here, he'll get up. They said, so he's a human cockroach, and I mean that in the nicest way. But yes, you've got to be, that's a resilient, they're the most resilient, what would you call it, insect in the world, I guess.
Oh, absolutely it is. Because stepping out of corporate and going into business, because that is something that I actually think it's more people's dream than what we actually think.
I'll tell you what happens very quickly, because we can get into that. But I've just helped my daughter who's a doctor of psychology, I told you, but she was in a quandary about what to do. She was just finished a project 3 years with the Royal Children's Hospital in charge of the corporate culture. And she finished that. She just started another one only 3 weeks ago. But I went through how to start your business and what you got to think like. You've got to have enormous self-belief. You've got to believe you can do it, you see. You've got to be totally focused. Give you an example of a snippet. Once I made a decision to start my own business, I stopped looking at the age employment section. I stopped reading them. I actually turned them over. Now, that takes a fair bit of discipline, I guess. And I gave this advice. I could interview my son-in-law, who was a business analyst for Merrill Lynch, and his dad was the CEO and all that. When the GFC happened, he lost his job. So he sent out, when I said 75 letters before, he sent out 70-odd letters to try and get a job. And I went down to see him and the grandkids one Sunday for dinner. And I said, how's it going, Shannon? He said, oh, no, I'm getting appointments and then I don't get anywhere. Everything you just said. And I said, you know what I do? If I did this, Shannon, I stopped sending out 70 letters to get jobs, and I sent out 70 letters once I knew what I was to get business. And in 9 months, I equaled my competitor's 12th year's target. And he said, you're kidding. I said, no. He now owns, with his friend whose children go to the same school, Stamp Me, which is international loyalty company, handling companies around the world to the point he can't handle it, and he's now choosy on who he wants. He started that in his second bedroom. One of the things that you don't realise, and you've learnt this, you two, I'm sure, is when you go out by yourself, people can't believe you've done it and they wish they could do it, and they're envious, all that you said. And you know what they say? Isn't he amazing? They do this. And so you know what they want to do? This is weird. I had it happen. They want to support you because you've had the courage and the guts and whatever, the commitment to go out and take the calculated risk. They say, oh, by the way, George, listen, Collingwood Football Club needs some, would you like to, would you? And it's amazing how it just goes. They admire people who take a risk like that.
But you also have people who want you to fail.
Yeah, and I'm one of them. I just put the blinkers on. I couldn't afford to take my eye off the ball, you see.
John, you're right. That's an issue. And George is spot on with you. It's an issue. It's part of that fitness that you need to have, is that you have the blinkers to block out the ones that want you to fail and focus on those that will help you succeed.
There's a thing called, I learnt this from of all things, a speaker years and years ago. He called it synapse, the silent negative influence of other people. He had a little acronym for it, and the way you just got to block them out. I mean, they don't own you. Mark, you've hit the nail. You've got to go to a gym on fitness for the brain.
That's another podcast in itself.
There you go,
George.
It is. Lovely to see you both.